Assassin's Creed 2 was developed by Ubisoft Montreal and released in November of 2009 on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. It was directed by French-Canadian developer Patrice Désilets, who created the series and led development of the first three main entries. Désilets was also the director of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, on which the Assassin's Creed series is strongly based. Within a year of release, Assassin's Creed 2 sold 9 million copies, and that doesn't include the sales across Ezio Trilogy or Ezio Collection, both containing Assassin's Creed 2 with both of its sequels, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Revelations. With roughly 17 entries over 8 time periods, this series is easily one of the longest running story arcs across a single series of games. So with all of that out of the way, it's time we look at many fans' favorite entry in the Assassin's Creed series and ask, what's so great about Assassin's Creed 2? Generally, most people know the idea behind each Assassin's Creed game, because honestly, the main idea doesn't change that much throughout each entry. So, to get the general story out of the way, you play as an assassin from various time periods in each game, securing a respective city or country from the Templar Knights and their conspirators. In the second entry, you take on the role of Florentine nobleman Ezio Auditore de Firenze, a playboy hoodlum who has to adopt the creed of the Assassins in order to avenge his father and brothers who were wrongfully executed for unknown reasons. While avenging his family, he discovers much larger underlying problems brewing across Italy between the Templar conspirators. Throughout the adventure, you will meet historic names such as Leonardo da Vinci, the Medici family, and Rodrigo de Borgia, among others. Because they were real people, for the most part, they always feel as though you're catching them in the middle of their own story. The world feels like it's always in motion, and Ezio's story fits snugly into the gears of history. Unlike the first entry, the sections outside the Animus were much more involved, deepening the secondary storyline of Desmond as well as explaining more about the world of assassins and Templars in modern day as compared to the Crusades or Renaissance. We can't really go into more detail about either Desmond's or Ezio's stories because not only does the game begin with spoilers of the first Assassin's Creed, in case you haven't played it, but the second title is really where Ubisoft makes strides with the story, with a chilling ending that remains a fan favorite through the series. One important note to make is the huge leap they took by creating this faction of Renaissance assassins. Here's why it was such a big leap and why it's so important considering where the series is now. The first entry took place in the Crusades, where assassins and Templars actually existed. And if you weren't aware, yes, the Assassin's Creed, as in the actual creed of assassins, did exist. In fact, it's where the modern term assassin comes from was from this group known as the Hashashin. As a side note, that fact is what made me fall in love with these games, and I could gush about the historical accuracy of the Creed and the metaphors involved in the Pieces of Eden and all that, but it would be very spoiler heavy. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, I suggest looking into it. It's crazy how many parallels to real life are embedded in this series. But anyway, outside of the Crusades, there's not really any mention of the existence of the Creed or Knights Templar, and if it weren't for the leap to the Renaissance and a fictional era of assassins, then this series wouldn't be where it is now. We wouldn't have a pirate assassin, or an assassin in the French Revolution. Stretching the historic mold in Assassin's Creed 2 may be the only reason this series didn't stay in the Crusades, and became the much more exciting adventure that we're all familiar with. Free running and overall movement have been greatly improved in this entry, which is good because it's a pretty important aspect of the series. High and low profile movement was still separated by an extra button, allowing easier control and parkour pathfinding, which, in later titles, would be made a little more touchy. Assassin's Creed 2 allows the player to move quickly and seamlessly, but not recklessly. While there are occasional control issues or just questionable hitboxes, the game guides you towards the path of least resistance and encourages you to avoid all of these problems. The camera shifts naturally lead you in the direction of your objective, and respawns are kind in acknowledging where you are and where you need to be, providing good checkpoints as to not be too punishing. The Animus 2.0 is a perfect excuse for the new mechanics introduced in the second Assassin's Creed, such as movement while using eagle vision or the ability to swim. Ubisoft even canonized the addition of water in the second entry by saying the new Animus was strong enough to handle it. While the first game allowed exploration of districts one section at a time, Assassin's Creed 2 had few limitations of where you could go unless the story demanded it. Several other new mechanics were introduced, many of them intertwining to create more sophisticated gameplay, such as adding new weapons that mixed with new assassination methods such as double assassinations and poison, as well as a city management with an income system. The feature of income and other additions such as the Assassin Tomb side missions have blended and evolved through every entry since, adapting to each new chapter of the Assassin's Creed series. Courtesans, mercenaries, and thieves all changed how you interact with groups of guards and enemies, permitting you to adapt your tactics to your tools at hand. Despite being a sequel, Assassin's Creed 2 is actually a great starting point for new players. Maybe not in terms of story, but if you don't worry about that sort of thing, then Ezio's Adventure is a great experience for any gamer. The learning process begins simplistically without bland tutorials. Instead, you are introduced to all the side characters of the game as they give you jobs to do that teach the player of the available mission types. Little touches in cutscenes demonstrate the controls and other new features, such as environmental changes to provide shortcuts. This entry also feels much more at your own pace than the first Assassin's Creed title. Ezio is a man with his own mission, not serving someone else like Altair before him. You no longer have to run back and forth from one place between missions like the Masyaf Castle. While die-hard Collectathon fans can still look for feathers which take the place of the first game's flags, more casual collectors can invest their earnings in artwork, weapons, and clothing throughout the cities. Armor and weaponry is now customizable, including dyeing Ezio's robes or even displaying newly purchased armor upgrades. One new feature that became a staple of the series is Sean's database. The database includes extensive information for history buffs that want to learn more about the actual locations and people from history, while Ubisoft also included their own plausible historic information for original characters. It may be partly due to a more familiar time period, but the characters are much more familiar and memorable in this entry, such as Da Vinci and the Medici family. Even the villains have more personality as you see them interact with each other as an organization of conspirators, rather than a list of individual targets as in the first game. Assassin's Creed 2 really pulled in more attention with its theatrics, meaning to say, the exciting new environment and blast of new visuals really catches players' attention. After the dreary, blue-filtered, tan-building crusades, Renaissance Italy is alive with color, sounds, and character. The bright rooftops and countryside views give you something to look at as you leap across buildings to your next destination. It's honestly a shame how convenient and nice the rooftops are, because you don't always realize how much work they put into the streets as well, bustling with people and shops and surrounding you with buzzing Italian conversations, rather than the mixture of various British, Middle Eastern, and American accents of the first game. Aside from just the look of everything, the functionality of the architecture has also greatly improved since its predecessor. In fact, such a jump in improvement wouldn't be seen again until Assassin's Creed Unity. The changes in style and details to the buildings supported new gameplay to work hand in hand with the design, with approachable changes in elevation, impressively tall buildings that required a new jumping leap mechanic, hanging baskets to maintain momentum around corners, and more levels on buildings for climbing or descending quickly and safely. And of course, it wouldn't be Assassin's Creed without majestic sweeping shots of the world below, while a bright-robed assassin plans his next move. The Assassin's Creed series is known for being an annual release title, and while that may work very well for titles surrounding the same character like the Ezio sequels, it seems to some players that the quick releases hinder some performance as well as duration of playability. That's not to say there aren't many fans who enjoy the games year after year, but it does cause some games to stand out more than others. According to HowLongToBeat.com, Assassin's Creed 2 has the second longest storyline behind Black Flag, but if you take out all the naval travel time, it's obvious that Ezio's 2-year development period had an impact, not only feeling the most full of an experience, but remaining many players' favorites despite having to compete with 16 other entries and 8 years of changes. So, what's so great about Assassin's Creed 2? What a great opportunity Ubisoft stumbled upon with this franchise. There's so many enjoyable aspects for players of all interests. A historical drama stealth platformer with just a dash of sci-fi. Many alternate history genre games focus on some major world-changing event occurring in the past, while Assassin's Creed focuses on the secrets of our world that have always lurked in the shadows. Desolé and his crew put a lot of heart into this game, even tripling the size of the team working on it and overhauling new features, vastly improved environmental designs, and much more in-depth information behind every event in the game. The contained open-world style allows players to roam Venice, Florence, and other cities of Renaissance Italy with enjoyable characters, tense storylines, and a sense of humor to boot. That is what's so great about Assassin's Creed 2. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of What's So Great About Gaming, as we leapt into the animus and the world of Assassin's Creed 2. If you have a favorite series or a single game that you think is great, leave a comment of your choice and we'll look into it. If you feel there is something about Assassin's Creed that didn't get enough attention, let us know. We'd love to discuss it with you. If it's important enough, we may even make a follow-up video. Thanks again for watching. Now go play a great game. We'll see you next time.